Afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Jeff and Sarah are off today. A memorial in Fond du Lac County continues to grow as we learn more about the 16-year-old boy who died in a crash this past weekend. An online obituary has identified the teenager as Nevins Zock of El Dorado. Authorities say the sophomore at Laconia High School died at the scene of the crash in the town of Tachita. The principal tells us he was new to the school this year, but he quickly got involved in athletics, joining the football team. She says he was always polite and friendly in their conversations, a true tragedy to lose someone so young. She says counselors have been available to students and friends to help with the grieving process. Tonight, the high school has something special planned to remember victims.
Tonight, we're actually hosting a boys basketball game, and our opponent is St. Mary Springs High School out of Fond du Lac, and they as well had a student impacted with this car accident. And so we met with some Springs representatives, and we have a planned, we're kind of coming together, trying to come together. Typically, this would be a very big rivalry between the two schools, and we're kind of turning that into just joining together to be with one another.
At the game, there will be a collection that will be split between the victims' families. Tonight, starting at 5 at both Fond du Lac home hockey games, a tribute table is being set up for Tommy Koenig's. He was airlifted from the crash site with life-threatening injuries. Donations will be collected at the Blue Line Family Ice Center to support the Koenig's family. The Fond du Lac High School Hockey Booster Club will match the donation total up to $1,500.